What's going down, YouTube? It's DarkJack. Today I'm bringing you a game of Domination on WMD, but I really don't want to talk about the gameplay. What I want to talk about instead is the differences between the Xbox and the PS3, and why I personally prefer to play on the Xbox rather than the PS3. So before I talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each system, I first want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm in my 20s. I've been playing games my entire life. The first game I ever played was the original Mario on the original Nintendo. Yes, the original Mario. And then from there I moved on to the original Zelda with the golden cartridge. And I beat that game. That was the first game I ever beat. And then from there I went on to the Super Nintendo. And then the Nintendo 64. And then to the PlayStation 2. Then to the Wii. And then to PC gaming. And finally to the Xbox 360 where I am now. And so I've been around the block quite a few times. I've played over 100 different games in my lifetime at least. Probably more like 300 or 400 different games. So I know my games. I know each system pretty well. And even though I don't currently own a PS3, I've played on the PS3 quite a bit with my friends who own it. And I have a lot of experience with the PS2 because my gamertag is DarkJack, which comes from a game called Jak and Daxter, which is a PS2 exclusive that I really had fun playing. And so now that I'm on the Xbox 360, I'm going to explain why I play on it and not the PS3. For the PS3, it has a lot of advantages. It has a Blu-ray player, so you can watch Blu-ray movies on it. It has free multiplayer, and the PS3 controller has a smaller dead zone on the sticks, so it's easier to play on a higher sensitivity on the PlayStation controller rather than the Xbox. And then the counter argument to these advantages is that even though the PlayStation can play Blu-ray discs, most people who own an Xbox already own a Blu-ray player. For example, I already own a laptop that can play Blu-ray movies, so there's no reason for me to go out and buy a PlayStation 3 so I can watch Blu-rays. Because Blu-ray movies are so common now, as well as Blu-ray players, people aren't going to go out and buy a PS3 just so that they can watch Blu-ray players. They can watch Blu-ray movies with a Blu-ray player for a lot less money than going out and spending $300 on a PS3. And then, even though multiplayer is free on the PS3, that's also a disadvantage because that means Sony has less money to spend on servers, on exclusives, on DLC than Microsoft does. And so, as evidenced by the PSN getting hacked, the PlayStation doesn't have as good a security or privacy as the Xbox. And so because Sony does not make money off of PSN, there is no financial incentive for them to invest money in security or servers because they lose money from the PSN rather than making money, whereas Xbox makes money off of Xbox Live, so there exists for them a financial incentive for them to invest in servers and security. So in the Xbox you have better privacy, and you don't have to worry about the Xbox going down for random reasons unless they're doing scheduled maintenance, and they'll do that at announced times. And then for the PS3 you have some nice exclusives. You have God of War, you have Uncharted, Killzone, SOCOM, MAG, Little Big Planet, and Heavy Rain. And then even though those are nice games, none of them are good enough for me to spend $300 to go out and buy a PS3 to play them. And so the PS3 suffers from a lack of good first-person shooters. Out of its exclusives, the only decent first-person shooter it has is Killzone. And so with Killzone, there's a better version of Killzone in the game Crisis, which is on both Xbox and PS3. And then the disadvantage of the PS3 is that security is not as good. It's more difficult to protect your privacy. And there's no party chat on PS3. There's no cross-game chat, so it's more difficult to keep a team of people together. You can't talk with people unless you're like in the same game with them on the PlayStation 3. So that's a big disadvantage, and so teams of people don't want to play on the PS3. That's why there are like 10 times as many people in game battles teams on the Xbox than the PS3. At least until the PS3 got Black Ops for MLG. Then now there are more people doing game battles on PS3. And then also, the voice quality on the PS3 is not as good. You have lots of people using those cheap Bluetooth mics that sound awful, and the voice servers are not as good. And the connection on the PS3 is not as good either because the servers are not as good. Then for Black Ops, the PS3 version of Black Ops suffers from frame rate lag and screen tearing. And also you get the map packs a month late. And so I'm a big Nazi Zombies fan, so if I owned a PS3 I would buy an Xbox just to get the map packs early. Because I want to be able to play the maps early because I'm a big Nazi Zombies fan. And so even though the PS3 has a better potential than the Xbox to make better looking games, the reality is that when a company makes a game for the Xbox and the PS3, they make one game for each console. And so what that means is that the PS3 version of the game is more likely to have glitches in it than the Xbox version, because the PS3 is more difficult to program for than the Xbox. Then for the Xbox, on that console you have better exclusives. You have games like Gears of War, Halo, Left 4 Dead, Connect, and better arcade games like Geometry Wars 2. And then you also have party chat. You have a better connection, better privacy. You get better DLC. And Microsoft has more money to spend than Sony, so you're going to get the map packs early for Black Ops. You have a better connection on Black Ops, and you have less of a frame rate lag on Xbox than PS3. The controller for the Xbox is also more ergonomic. It fits in your hand better. And if you're using a wired Xbox controller like I do, it weighs about the same as a PS3 controller. Because some people complain that the Xbox controller is too heavy. But that's not true if you just use a wired controller. And then on the Xbox there are more people with mics on it because the Xbox comes with a mic, whereas the PS3 does not. Even though it's a pretty cheap mic, you should just get a headset anyway, so I recommend getting like the Tritons or the Astros. And then generally when you play on the Xbox, you're more likely to run into good players. Even though there are both good and bad players on each console, you're more likely to run into those Baby Buffalo and Black Ops on PS3. Because there are many people on Black Ops on the Xbox who come from a first-person shooter background. They played Halo, for example, or Gears of War, or Left 4 Dead, and they were disappointed with Reach, and so they left Halo and they came to Black Ops. So you're going to run into a lot of those players who are pretty good at first-person shooters. And then you're also going to run into better players because you're more likely to get hardcore gamers on the Xbox because it has a subscription fee. And so you're more likely to run into people who are willing to pay that money because they care deeply about online gaming. And then generally, for the Xbox, it appeals to gamers and people who are hardcore gamers because it has games that they want to play, like Halo and Gears of War, that are highly competitive, where the ranking is based on your individual skill rather than experience, at least up until Halo Reach. And it also encourages teamwork and communication because the Xbox actually comes with a mic and has better voice servers. And the games that are exclusive to it require communication because in games like Halo and Left 4 Dead and Gears of War, if you want to win, you have to communicate. Communication is essential on the Xbox. And so when you play Black Ops on the Xbox, it's easier to find people to play with who want to talk and communicate and work together as a team. Whereas on the PS3, it's a lone wolf mentality. So that's why I personally play on the Xbox. It has better exclusives and better connection. And I don't mind paying $5 a month for better servers and better security. So I'll talk to you guys later.